In the mid-1860s, the Taiping Rebellion devastated China before ultimately being crushed, and in the aftermath many fled into Southeast Asia to escape persecution. Many ended up in northern Vietnam where they formed an outlaw army known as the Black Flags, and there their well-disciplined force worked alongside the Vietnamese and Chinese in their wars against the French. But there were also other bands like the more numerous Yellow Flags. However, they were defeated by the Black Flags and forced to flee into modern-day Laos. Then, in the beginning of the 1870s, the Chinese had crushed the Pantai Rebellion as well, forcing more to flee, forming the Red Flags and the Striped Flags in Laos. Laos at this time was primarily split between the kingdoms of Luang Prabang and Vientiane, both of which were vassals of Siam. But there was also the Principality of Muang Puan, and a confederation of chiefdoms known as Sip Song Chao Tai. This confederation, because of its isolated location, retained a degree of autonomy, but would often pay tribute to Siam, Luang Prabang or Vietnam. But the Red Flags captured Dien Bien Phu, while the Striped Flags captured territory around Muang Puan. So Un Cam, the ruler of Luang Prabang, called on the Emperor of Vietnam for help. However, they were defeated and Vientiane was subsequently sacked. Fearing the bandits had plans to come even further south, Rama V of Siam sent an army to crush them in 1875. They successfully retook Vientiane, but the bandits just retreated into the mountains. So the Siamese just went back south, allowing the bandits to once again loot and ravage the towns and villages. These raids continued for another 8 years until the bandits were ready to launch renewed offensives. So in 1884, Rama again sends troops north to help Luang Prabang. However, his men were poorly trained and unfamiliar with the terrain and tactics. Plus, the bandits were now an experienced fighting force. They would often mutilate captives and use guerrilla tactics like punji sticks to constantly weaken their enemy. And they took Muang Yu, capturing even more supplies. But campaigning stopped for the rainy season as many were killed by malaria. But in early 1885, the Siamese moved on to take one of their strongholds. Although the bandits only had limited defences, the Siamese troops could not take their stockades, so laid siege to it. The bandits, however, were now well supplied, while the besiegers slept without tents, foraged for foods, and some were even attacked by tigers. So after 3 months, their commander, who had been wounded during a failed assault, was forced to lift the siege. However, Prince Pachak took over the Siamese forces and led his army back to the stronghold, only to find that the bandits had already escaped into the countryside. Meanwhile, to the east, the French had defeated the Vietnamese and were fighting against the Chinese bandits there, and began to push them back into Laos. Once there, the Black Flag army formed an alliance with the ruler of Sip Song Chao Tai, who was called Cam He turned against the Siamese because they had arrested his 4 sons to ensure his loyalty and payment of tribute. So, seeking revenge in 1887 with the Black Flags, he sacked Luang Prabang. However, they failed to capture the ruler Un Cam because a Frenchman named Auguste Pavie helped ferry him to safety. But Auguste Pavie continued to make diplomatic breakthroughs and sought to strengthen relations with Cam To do so, he helped negotiate the release of his sons, and in response, the anti-Vietnamese and anti-Siamese ruler agreed to become a French protectorate in 1889. And simultaneously, the French also helped drive the Black Flags out of Luang Prabang. So Un Cam also sought French protection, thus breaking free of Siam. And since taking Vietnam, the French also inherited the Vietnamese claims to the rest of Laos. So as the Siamese proved ineffective at driving back the bandits, they had effectively lost control over a great deal of their northern territory, and the disputes over Luang Prabang becoming a French protectorate led to the short Franco-Siamese War.